Hey everyone, today I'm having a look at the Corsair Obsidian 650D mid-tower case. This case has 4 5.25 inch bays. It fits up to 6 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch hard drives. It has 8 expansion slots and it comes included with a 200mm fan in the front, another 200mm in the top and a 120mm fan on the back. It has a windowed side panel and it also has quick release side panels. Included with the case comes a Corsair product catalogue, some information, a quick start guide, 8 cable ties for cable management, some rubber washers and also 2 different types of screws for mounting both 2.5 inch and 3.5 inch hard drives and the motherboard, and also some big flathead screws for mounting fans. Okay, now looking at the front panel, we have a power button and a hard drive activity light. Inside this door we have 2 USB 3 ports, a microphone and a headphone jack, 2 USB 2 ports and a firewire port, and also the reset button. Moving down the front of the case, you can see the 4 5.25 inch bays and then a large mesh area which is ventilated for the 200mm fan which is behind it. So you actually can only use a 200mm fan in the front of this case. There's no other fan options. It's very easy to remove the front dust cover. All you need to do is push on the top and it releases. So just looking at that dust cover now, you can see that it has a fine mesh on the inside of the exterior mesh. The front panel is made of brushed aluminium. It is quite easy to remove, but it's not necessary for any of the case functions. Now looking at the top of the case, so there's a door up here which slides open to reveal a hard drive dock. This fits 2.5 inch and 3.5 inch drives. So that just there is the guide for the 2.5 inch drives, and a 3.5 inch drive will just hold it flat. So just here we have a switch which is actually a fan controller for up to 4 3-pin fans. It's a 3-speed fan controller. This door clicks tightly shut, so it won't just slide open on its own. Okay, moving across the top of the case. So you can install 2 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans or a 200mm fan in the top of this case. So you can see that the window is designed to only show the main part of the build, the motherboard. The window has a rubber strip around it. The front panel of the case is the only part that has the brushed aluminium finish. The rest of the case has a textured black finish, and the case is completely black on the interior and exterior. Now for a quick look at the quick releases. So all you need to do to remove the side panels of the case is just pull them down. So you can see that the window is actually screwed on, so it will be quite easy to remove. Just to look underneath, you can see where the side panel fits into place. And now looking at the quick releases from the inside. Okay, now it's time for a look inside the case. So I'll start off with the hard drive bays. This case fits 6 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch hard drives. I'll just remove one of the caddies. So they're made of plastic, flexible. To install a 3.5 inch drive, you just flex them open and clip it into place. There's rubber washers here to prevent vibration. To install a 2.5 inch drive, it's just a matter of mounting it onto these mounting holes on the bottom of the caddy. These look a little bit flimsy, but once you get a drive in place, they become extremely sturdy, and they also clip into place. The hard drive bays are split into two different hard drive cages, which each fit 3 hard drives. This is so that you can install either one onto the bottom of the case, and it can be mounted just here. It's just a matter of undoing a few screws, and yeah, you can easily move either one down onto the bottom of the case there. You can see that there's plenty of ventilation through the hard drive bays. There's large holes cut into the sides of them. This is for the 200mm fan in the front of the case. Unfortunately, I don't have any specifications on these fans. You can see that they're mounted with a rubber washer on the inside, and there's actually also one on the outside. Now for a look at the 5.25 inch bays. So these have a toolless design and a simple quick release mechanism. So there's actually an optical drive in the top bay at the moment, and it's locked in place now, and then you just push to release. Just a quick look at the inside of the 5.25 inch bays. The case came with all the cables hanging down here on the inside. They'll all need to be threaded through the back. Okay, now for a look at the cables. So we have a SATA power and also a SATA data cable for the hard drive dock on top of the case. Here are all the cables for the fan controller. It's a 4-channel fan controller, and it's a 3-speed fan controller. I showed you the speed control earlier. It's in the hard drive dock area on top of the case. So it just has a single 4-pin Molex to power the 4 fans, and all female 4 female 3-pin fan plugs there. These are all the front panel cables, power reset, hard drive LED, power LED, and quite surprisingly, just these direct USB 3 plugs to plug into the back I/O panel on the motherboard, so they have to go all the way around through the back of the case. You can pick up converters though pretty cheap these days, from USB 3 to internal USB 3 motherboard header, but it would have been nice to see it included. Now for a look at the bottom of the case and the power supply mounting area. So you can see there's plenty of ventilation. This case also has one of these power supply support brackets which rests up against the front of the power supply. So it's just a bracket with 2 thumb screws and a number of adjustment holes. So you can see that there's no anti-vibration material on the power supply mounting area. This case has 8 expansion slots. You can see it has 2 large water cooling tubing cutouts with grommets. It fits a 120mm fan on the back, and this fan comes included. In the top corner up there, it has a cutout which is for the front panel USB 3 cables to pass through. So I mentioned earlier that you can fit either 2 120mm or 2 140mm fans in the top of this case. So that means either a 240mm or a 280mm radiator. But the question now is, how thick can that radiator be? So that 200mm fan up there at the moment is 25mm thick, and I've measured down to where the motherboard comes to, which these are the motherboard mounts here, so the motherboard would come up to about here somewhere, and 50mm is the thickest radiator that you could put in this case, approximately. So that's a fairly substantial water cooling radiator. Now this is actually something new that I'm going to do with all of my case reviews, well, most of them. I'm going to talk about the potential water cooling possibilities for every case. In the front here, you can actually get 200mm radiators. So you could also put a 200mm radiator in the front. This would mean that you'd have to remove both of the hard drive cages and put one of them down the bottom here, which is fine because that means you can still put full-length graphics cards, although you might not be able to have more than 2 graphics cards because, you know, the hard drive dock would be up to about here. So that would be the second radiator, and that is a substantial amount of radiator capacity. That's a lot of cooling capacity. That would do, you know, the CPU and a GPU and maybe a little bit more depending on the climate where you live. If I wanted to put another radiator in this case, I'd put it out on the back, similar to what I've done with my full tower Corsair Obsidian 650D. Just with a mount, you could mount a quad radiator or a triple radiator or even a 560mm radiator on the back of this case, and you could use the cutouts that are already here. So that's the water cooling possibilities in this case. Okay, now for a look at the motherboard tray. So this case fits ATX and MATX motherboards. It has a large cutout for installing CPU cooler backplates, and it has plenty of cable management options. You've got 8 grommets, so that can fit all the cables you can imagine. You've also got this extra hole here, which is for your SATA data and power cables if you were to install one of the hard drive cages here. You've got large gaps here underneath the 200mm fan. So, and you've also got another hole here, another cutout here for the CPU power cable. Now for a look at the back panel of the case. So this case has an extremely tough and sturdy design. This panel here is actually part of the top panel, and it's been folded over and riveted to the back panel. So you can see the cutout here for the USB 3 pass-through cables. You can see the 120mm fan mounting area. It's actually slightly raised. Moving down, you can see the water cooling tubing cutouts with grommets, the 8 expansion slots, and the power supply mounting area. This case also has a dust filter under the power supply ventilation area. It has a fine mesh. It's very easy to remove and clean. Okay, now for a look at the cable management area. So you can see all those cable management cutouts and that incredible number of grommets. The cable management in this case is going to be extremely easy. Also the extra cutout up here and the CPU power cutout. That CPU cooler cutout is absolutely massive. You're not going to have any problems removing backplates with that sized cutout at all. You have 6 of these for passing cable ties through for cable management. Now looking at the 5.25 inch bays, and behind the 3.5 inch / 2.5 inch bays. So you can also pass cables through all the way up the side here, up to here, if that's even necessary. I mean, there's only a small gap there, but it's really not necessary because there's so many other places to pass cables through. There's 20mm behind the motherboard tray for cable management, and that goes for the entire motherboard tray area. And there's approximately 40mm behind the hard drive mounting area and the 5.25 inch bays. You can see that the back side panel of the case also has the quick releases. Now for a quick look at the bottom of the case. So there's a piece of textured rubber in each corner of the case for grip. The case feet are extremely sturdy. Okay, this is an excellent mid-tower case. There's no doubt that you can fit any number of high-end system configurations into it. It follows the elegant design of the Corsair Obsidian series. As you can see by the Obsidian 800D sitting next to it, the design is quite similar. Anything that you get your hands on from Corsair, you just know straight away that the quality is just perfect. The build quality of this case is just exceptional. I can't pick any faults in the build quality at all. The paint job is perfect. The design is perfect. It's incredibly strong and sturdy. This is a case that is going to last you a very long time through many builds and upgrades. Now make sure you check out Singularity Client Build Video 1 because I'm actually putting a build into this case. So if you want full details on that build, I go over all the specifications of the hardware that I'm using and the build process, also testing of the hardware. So you'll get to see what a build looks like in this case. So make sure you click on the link on the screen to check that video out. That sums up this review. Please click subscribe, like and favourite if you want to see more. Thanks everyone.